Independence. So we're looking at the ability to be self-directed, exhibiting self-control in your thoughts and behavior. That exhibiting self-control in thoughts and behavior was a really hard one for my son to learn. He did not like that. Think before you say. Took a lot of practice for him growing up. Also, the ability to be self-directed, meaning can you work autonomously? Can you find pieces of interesting self-growth? So it's not always about being self-directed in a way that says, I have to completely take charge. It's also about being self-directive in your interests and in exploring things that may also be hobbies or places that you want to gain deeper knowledge, whether that's educating yourself, getting a training, doing a certification, those elements of work. What do you think happens if somebody is too independent? They may not have the empathy to recognize that there are people who are different than them and that have different needs than they have. So it's that element of being so independent that you think everybody else should be as independent as you and holding judgment then. What about on the flip side, if we're too low? You have to be micromanaged,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So usually that's where it requires a lot out of a supervisor to get the person to do work because they're so, in some ways it shows up as insecurity. They're afraid to do something by themselves. And the thought of doing it by themselves scares them to the point that it's almost paralyzing. A lot of times you'll see this really kick in with some of the lower self-regard pieces too, if they're low in independence. So they have a hard time completing tasks. They have a hard time, if they're given something to do independently that they need to bring back to the team, they have a hard time completing that task without a lot of support, without a lot of verbal recognition or verbal prompting to complete. And it's not so comfortable to see that other end, right? I think we all have a tendency to see the side where it's easier to see the overly independent person than it is to see the person who just is too insecure to move forward. And they will look like what we call social loafers. So they'll look like people who are not willing to contribute to the team at an equitable component. So they will be, but it's really out of fear. It's the fear of not being able to complete the task or to not be able to do it good enough. Another element that comes into motivation is this idea of competency. And so if they're in the wrong job and they don't feel competent, they will have a very hard time coming forward and saying, okay, I need to do this task, but once again, I don't know how. Because they may feel like, I just told you for the last 30 days, I don't know how to do anything. And that really brings that self-regard down in addition.